The message arrived on a Tuesday morning. It came through every radio telescope on Earth at exactly the same time. Scientists rushed to their stations. Military commanders grabbed their phones. World leaders held emergency meetings. After 70 years of sending signals into space, something had finally answered back. Admiral Dae-jung stood in the command center, staring at the translation on the screen. He had prepared for this moment his entire career. He had read every first contact protocol. He had studied every alien invasion movie. He was ready for threats, warnings, or demands. What he was not ready for was this. Greetings to the species of planet Earth. Your application for membership in the Galactic Empire has been approved. Please complete forms GE2847B through GE2847Z. Submit all historical records in the following 17 formats. Attendance is required at mandatory orientation. Duration 6 to 8 standard cycles. Welcome to the Empire. Dae-jung read it 3 times. Then he turned to his team. They all wore the same confused expression. This has to be a code, said General Park, head of military intelligence. They are testing us. Looking for weaknesses. Dr. Hae-jin, the lead scientist, raised her hand. She was young, only 34, but she knew more about alien communication than anyone on Earth. She pushed her glasses up her nose. What if it is not a code? She asked. What if they really mean it? What if they want us to fill out forms? Everyone looked at her. General Park shook his head. Dae-jung frowned. The president of the United Nations, who was watching by video link, cleared his throat. Dr. Hae-jin, the president said carefully. No advanced civilization would care about paperwork. This must be some kind of trick. Hae-jin wanted to argue, but she stayed quiet. Everyone had already made up their minds. Earth was preparing for war. Over the next 2 weeks, the world changed. Governments stopped fighting each other and started working together. Factories built weapons. Scientists developed new shields. Admiral Dae-jung selected Earth's best people for a delegation. They would go to meet the aliens, but they would not go unprepared. Dae-jung chose his team carefully. Dr. Hae-jin would handle communication and science. Lieutenant Bora, a young communications officer, would manage all technical systems. Engineer Tae-yang, who could fix anything with spare parts and determination, would keep their ship running. Ambassador Yoon-ji, the most experienced diplomat on Earth, would lead negotiations. They also prepared a backup plan. 20 warships would hide just beyond the solar system. If things went wrong, if this was a trap, Earth would fight back. The delegation's ship launched on a cold morning in March. Inside, the 5 humans sat quietly as Earth grew smaller behind them. The journey would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks to reach the coordinates the aliens had sent. 3 weeks to prepare for whatever was coming. Lieutenant Bora spent her time monitoring alien communications. She was 26, the youngest person on the mission. She had joined the Space Force because she loved solving puzzles. And alien signals were the biggest puzzle of all. On the 5th day of travel, she noticed something strange. Admiral, she called out. I am picking up more alien transmissions. Dae-jung came to her station. The others gathered around. On the screen, lines of translated text scrolled past. Reminder. All trade route permits must be renewed before expiration. Late renewals require Form GE9943 and a waiting period of 47 cycles. Notice, the Department of Agricultural Standards has updated Regulation 4782. All previous versions are now invalid. Please submit compliance reports within 20 cycles. Alert. Filing deadline approaching for annual documentation. Failure to submit on time will result in processing delays of up to 90 cycles. Bora looked up at the Admiral. She pointed at the screen. Sir, I have been monitoring these for days. There are no military signals, no battle plans, no invasion strategies. All I hear is this: rules, regulations, paperwork. Engineer Tae-yang leaned over her shoulder. He was 45 with gray in his hair and grease under his fingernails. He had spent 20 years managing industrial plants before joining the mission. He started laughing. This sounds like every government office I have ever dealt with, he said. Permits, deadlines, forms in triplicate. I once waited 6 months for a building permit. The galaxy is just one big bureaucracy. Dr. Hae-jin felt a small surge of hope. Maybe she had been right. Maybe this really was about paperwork. But Dae-jung was not convinced. It could still be a trick, he said. We stay alert. We stay ready. The ship continued through space. Every day they practiced combat drills. Every night they studied alien languages. Ambassador Yunji prepared speeches for every possible scenario. She was 58, calm and patient. She had negotiated peace treaties and trade agreements for 30 years. But even she felt nervous. On the 20th day, they reached the coordinates. Everyone rushed to the windows. They expected a military fleet. They expected weapons. They expected something terrifying. What they saw was a building. A massive building floating in space. It was the size of Earth's moon, covered in windows and docking bays. Thousands of ships surrounded it. Ships of every shape and size from hundreds of different species, and they were all waiting in lines. Perfect, organized lines that stretched for miles. Bora checked her sensors. She started laughing. She could not help it. Admiral, I am reading the building identification beacon. It is called the Galactic Welcome and Processing Station. It is a government office. We are looking at the galaxy's biggest DMV. Daejung stared. Taeyang grinned. Heejin felt relief wash over her. Yoonji started organizing her documents. They docked at Bay 4792. A voice came over the speaker, translated into English. Welcome, Earth delegation. Please proceed to processing area 12. High Administrator Velmoth will meet you shortly. Please have all documentation ready for review. Thank you for your patience. They walked through the airlock into the station. The interior looked like every government building on Earth, just bigger. White walls, bright lights, long hallways with signs pointing in every direction, and aliens. Hundreds of different species, all standing in lines, all holding folders and tablets. A tall crystalline being approached them. It had 4 arms and a voice that echoed in 3 different tones at once. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am High Administrator Velmoth. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Galactic Empire. I have been reviewing your application for 47 years. Everything appears to be in order. Please follow me to my office. We have much paperwork to complete. Velmoth handed Daejung a stack of papers. Physical papers, at least 2 feet tall. The Admiral looked down at them. He looked up at the alien. He looked back at his team. Hyejin was smiling. Taeyang was shaking his head in disbelief. Bora was already pulling out a digital scanner. Yoonji was calmly reading the first page. Daejung thought about the 20 warships hiding beyond the solar system. He thought about all the weapons Earth had built. He thought about all the training and preparation. Then he started laughing. He could not help it. They had prepared for war. They had prepared for invasion. They had prepared for the end of the world. They had not prepared for paperwork. High Administrator Velmoth's office was exactly what Ambassador Yoonji expected from a government bureaucrat. Gray walls, organized shelves filled with identical folders, a desk covered in neat stacks of papers. The only unusual thing was Velmoth himself, a being made of crystal who spoke in 3 voices at once. Please, sit, Velmoth said, gesturing with his 4 arms. I am so pleased to finally meet you. Your species has such interesting characteristics. Characteristics. The humans sat in chairs that adjusted to their bodies. Velmoth pulled out more papers. He spread them across the desk. Now then, he continued. First, we need your complete planetary history. All wars, all governments, all major events. Then we need biological samples from every species on your planet. Then we need cultural documentation. Music, art, literature. All in the 17 approved formats, naturally. How long will this take? Admiral Daejung asked. Velmoth tilted his crystalline head. Oh, not long at all. Most species complete the process in 3 to 5 years. Dr. Heejin blinked. Years, yes. Very efficient. The Thorian Collective took 42 years. But they had many filing errors. I am sure you will do better. Lieutenant Bora looked at Engineer Taeyang. They both tried not to laugh. Ambassador Yoonji remained calm, her diplomatic training keeping her face neutral. What if we could do it faster? Yoonji asked politely. Velmoth's 3 voices made a sound like surprise chimes. Faster? No. The process is very precise, very important. Every form must be reviewed. Every document must be verified. We cannot rush. But what if the forms were filled out correctly the first time? Yoonji pressed gently. What if everything was organized and complete? Velmoth was quiet for a moment. Then he made a sound like tinkling bells. It might have been laughter. Such confidence. Very well, you may try. But I warn you, the Galactic Empire has standards. Standards. The humans left his office with armfuls of forms. As they walked through the station, they saw more of the bureaucratic nightmare. Every species had their own waiting area. Some had been there for decades. One elderly alien told them he had arrived as a young diplomat and would probably die before his paperwork was approved. "This is insane," Bora whispered. "How does anything get done?" "It does not," Taeyang replied, looking around. "That is the point. Everything moves so slowly that nothing ever happens. No progress, no change, no risk." Back in their assigned quarters, the team spread out the forms. There were thousands of them. Forms for Earth's location, forms for Earth's history, forms for Earth's biology, forms for forms. Dai Young sighed. "At this rate, we will be here for years." "Not necessarily," Yoonji said. She was reading through a thick regulation book. "I have dealt with bureaucracy my entire career. Every system has patterns. Every set of rules has shortcuts." Bora sat up straight. "What kind of shortcuts?" Yoonji smiled. "Look at these forms. They ask for the same information over and over, just in different formats. If we create one master database, we can autofill everything. And look here," she pointed to a regulation. "Forms can be submitted in parallel, not in sequence. Most species wait for each form to be approved before submitting the next. We do not have to do that." Taeyang leaned forward. "And I noticed something else. Half these regulations contradict each other. Look, this one says all biological samples must be submitted within 30 days. But this one says processing biological samples takes 60 days. So which rule do we follow?" Dr. Hyojin started flipping through pages. She found more contradictions. Rules that canceled each other out. Requirements that were impossible to meet. It was chaos disguised as order. "This is actually perfect," Hyojin said. "When rules contradict, there is flexibility. We can choose the interpretation that works best for us." "Is that legal?" Taejong asked. "It is not illegal," Yoonji said. "That is what matters. In diplomacy, if something is not explicitly forbidden, it is allowed." They worked through the night. Bora built a computer program to autofill forms. Taeyang organized the documents by priority. Hyojin researched every regulation, looking for loopholes. Yoonji coordinated everything, using her decades of experience to navigate the complex rules. 3 days later, they submitted everything. All forms, all documentation, all samples. Everything the Empire had requested. Velmoth stared at them in shock. His crystal body seemed to flicker with confusion. "This is not possible. You have only been here 72 hours. Is there a problem with our submission?" Yoonji asked politely. "We followed all regulations." A floating gaseous being drifted into the room. This was Compliance Officer Rixthar, who enforced all the rules. His voice sounded like wind through a cave. "I will review everything personally," Rixthar announced. "There must be errors. No species completes processing in 3 days." He spent the next 2 days checking every form. The humans waited nervously. If Rixthar found violations, they could be expelled. Earth could be banned from the Empire. Finally, Rixthar returned. He looked frustrated, if a gas cloud could look frustrated. "Everything is technically correct," he admitted. "You used parallel processing. You exploited contradictory regulations. You interpreted rules in creative ways. But nothing is actually illegal." Daejong tried not to smile. "So we are approved?" Rixthar made a sound like a sigh. "Yes, against all normal procedures, yes. Your processing is complete." News spread through the station quickly. The humans had done the impossible. Other aliens started approaching them, asking for help. A tentacled diplomat from the Thorian Collective begged them to review his paperwork. He had been stuck for 40 years. Bora looked at his forms. Within an hour, she found the problem. A single checkbox on page 4083 had been left unmarked. She filled it in. The Thorian diplomat started crying with joy. More aliens came. A beetle-like creature named Pipmix, a junior clerk who worked at the station, watched in amazement as the humans solved problem after problem. He approached Dr. Hyojin shyly. "How do you do this?" Pipmix asked. "I have worked here for 80 years. I have never seen anyone move this fast." Hyojin smiled. "On Earth, we have thousands of different bureaucracies. Every country has different rules. Every organization has different procedures. We learn to adapt, to find shortcuts, To know which rules really matter and which ones are just for show. Pipmix looked amazed. So you learned to fight bureaucracy by surviving bureaucracy? Exactly, Heejin said. We have been training for this our whole lives. We just did not know it. By the end of the week, word had spread across the entire station. Species that had been waiting for decades suddenly had hope. The humans could help. The humans knew the secrets, but not everyone was happy. Station Master Krell, a tentacled being who had run the station for 300 years, watched the chaos with growing anger. The humans were disrupting everything, changing the natural order, making his job harder. And in his office, high above the processing floors, High Administrator Velmoth looked at reports of the humans' success. His crystal body pulsed with an emotion that might have been excitement or might have been fear. He reached for his communicator with one of his 4 hands. He needed to contact the Galactic Council. Something unprecedented was happening. The humans were not just completing their own paperwork. They were showing the entire galaxy that there was a better way. High Administrator Velmoth summoned the humans to his office again. This time his 3 voices sounded worried. Please sit. Sit. Sit, he said. We need to talk. Talk. About what you have done. Done. Admiral Daejung felt his stomach tighten. Have we broken a rule? No. That is not the problem. Velmoth gestured with all 4 arms. You have helped 30 species complete their processing in 1 week. 30 species that have been waiting for decades. Station Master Krell is very upset. Upset. But I am not upset. I am relieved. Dr. Hyojin leaned forward. Relieved? Why? Velmoth was quiet for a long moment. His crystal body seemed to dim. Then he spoke, and for the first time, he only used one voice. Because the Empire is dying. We are all dying, and we have been too afraid to admit it. The humans looked at each other. Ambassador Yunji spoke carefully. What do you mean? Velmoth walked to a window. Outside, thousands of ships waited in their orderly lines. Let me tell you a story. 50,000 years ago, the galaxy was at war. Every species fought every other species. Billions died. Entire worlds burned. It was chaos and death and suffering beyond imagination. He turned back to face them. So the wisest beings from every species met. They asked themselves, how do we stop the fighting? How do we create lasting peace? They tried treaties, they tried alliances, nothing worked. War always came back. Then someone had an idea. What if we made war impossible? Not by force, but by making everything so complicated that no one could organize an army. What if every action required approval? Every decision needed forms. Every change went through committees. Engineer Tae-young understood immediately. They created bureaucracy on purpose, to slow everything down. Yes, Velmoth said, and it worked. For 50,000 years, there has been peace. No wars, no invasions, no genocide. The bureaucracy saved us. But, Lieutenant Bora asked, there is always a but. Velmoth nodded sadly. But we never stopped. The bureaucracy was supposed to be temporary. 1,000 years, maybe 2,000. Just long enough for old hatreds to fade. Then we would reform, simplify, move forward. What happened? Yunji asked, though she suspected she already knew. The Reform Committee was formed 49,000 years ago. Their proposal has been in the approval process ever since. It is stuck on someone's desk, waiting for a signature that will never come. Because approving reform would require following the very procedures we need to reform. We are trapped in our own system. Heejin felt a chill. So the Empire is paralyzed. Worse than paralyzed, Velmoth said. We are collapsing. Infrastructure crumbles because repair permits take decades. Bridges fall, stations fail, ships break down. Trade has stopped because route applications expire before approval. Science has ended because research needs 400 clearances. We have peace, yes, but we are dying slowly of our own efficiency. He looked directly at Admiral Daejung. That is why I am not upset about what you are doing. That is why I asked you here. I need your help. The Empire needs your help. Daijung stood up and walked to the window. He thought about Earth, about humanity's chaotic history, about all the different governments and systems and rules that humans had invented, fought over, and changed throughout the centuries. Why us, he asked. Why can we help when no one else can? Because you are the only species that fights bureaucracy naturally, Velmoth said. Every other species in the Empire grew up with these systems. It is all they know. They cannot imagine alternatives. When they see a rule, they follow it. When they see a form, they fill it out. They do not question, they do not resist. But humans? Hyejin said, understanding dawning. We question everything. Yes. Earth has thousands of different bureaucracies, all competing, all contradicting each other. You learn to survive by being clever, by finding loopholes, by knowing when to follow rules and when to ignore them. You develop this as a survival skill, and now that skill might save the galaxy. Taeyang laughed, but it was not a happy sound. So we are good at cutting red tape because Earth has too much red tape. That is ironic. What exactly are you asking us to do? Yoonji asked. She was always practical, always focused on the task at hand. Help us reform, Velmoth said. Not destroy the system. We still need order. We still need to prevent war. But help us make it work again. Help us find balance between safety and progress. And if we do this, Daejung said slowly, what do we get in return? Full membership. Immediate status. Not provisional, but equal partners in the Empire. Access to all technology, all knowledge, all resources. And more than that, a voice in shaping the future. The humans looked at each other. This was bigger than first contact, bigger than joining the Empire. They were being asked to rebuild galactic civilization. There is a problem, though, Bo-Ra said. Not everyone will want change. You said Station Master Krell is upset. He is not going to be the only one. Velmoth nodded. There will be resistance. Many beings have built their entire lives around this system. Thousands of administrators, millions of clerks, entire departments that exist only to process other departments. They will see reform as a threat. Can they stop us? Hyejin asked. Not with violence. The Empire does not work that way. But they can use the system against you. Lost forms, rejected applications, sudden rule changes, bureaucratic warfare. It can be very effective. Daijung smiled. Then it is a good thing we are good at fighting bureaucracy. At that moment, the door to Velmoth's office burst open. Compliance. Officer Rixthar floated in, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. High Administrator, this is irregular. You should not be discussing reform with a provisional species. This violates protocols 17 through 24. Velmoth stood up straighter. His three voices returned, firm and clear. Earth is no longer provisional. As of this moment, I am granting them full membership status under Emergency Authority Clause 973.3.3. Rixthar seemed to vibrate with anger. You cannot do that without council approval. I can during a crisis. And this is a crisis. The Empire is failing. These humans may be our only hope. The two aliens stared at each other. Finally, Rixthar backed down. He drifted toward the door, but paused. This will not go unnoticed, he said quietly. Station Master Krell and others like him will not accept this. There will be consequences. He left. The door closed. The humans sat in silence for a moment. Well, Taeyang said eventually, I guess we are committed now. Yoonji stood and extended her hand to Velmoth. He did not understand the gesture at first, then reached out with one of his four hands. They shook. We will help, she said. But we do this together. Humans and aliens working as partners. Agreed, Velmoth said, his voices filled with hope for the first time in centuries. The humans left his office knowing that everything had changed. They had come to join the Empire. Now they would have to save it. The humans started their work the next morning. They had a plan. Engineer Taeyang would fix the maintenance request system. Lieutenant Bora would create a fast-track process for simple approvals. Ambassador Yunji would negotiate agreements between departments. Dr. Hyejin would research and document everything. Taeyang began with the maintenance department. He found requests that were 18 months old. Broken equipment, damaged systems, critical repairs waiting for approval. Why does a simple repair take so long? He asked the department head, a slug-like being named Mortex. Mortex oozed sadly across his desk. Each repair needs approval from safety, from engineering, from budget, from environmental impact, from historical preservation. By the time all approvals come, the equipment is beyond repair. What if routine repairs did not need all those approvals? Taeyang suggested. What if you had authority for basic maintenance? Mortex seemed shocked. We have never done it that way. Try it my way, Taeyang said. Just for a week. They implemented the new system. Within 3 days, repairs that normally took 18 months were completed. Equipment started working again. The station operated more smoothly. Meanwhile, Bora worked with the processing department. She noticed that most applications were routine. Name changes, address updates, simple permits. They did not need extensive review. She created an automated system. Simple requests went through instantly. Complex ones still got full review. Processing times dropped from months to days. Yunji focused on interdepartment communication. She discovered that many departments had not talked to each other in centuries. They all did similar work but never coordinated. She organized meetings. She negotiated shared databases. She created mutual recognition agreements. Suddenly, information flowed freely. Work stopped being duplicated. The results were dramatic. In 2 weeks, the Welcome Station processed more applications than in the previous 2 years. Species that had been waiting for decades were suddenly approved. Trade routes opened. Research permits were granted. The galaxy started moving again, but not everyone was celebrating. Station Master Krell called an emergency meeting of senior administrators. 50 beings gathered in a conference room. All of them were angry. The humans are destroying everything, Krell said, his tentacles waving in agitation. They are bypassing established procedures. They are making decisions without proper review. This is chaos. A bird-like administrator named Vex spoke up. My department has processed forms for 300 years. Now the humans say we are not needed. What will happen to us? We will lose our positions, another administrator said. Our purpose. Everything we have worked for. Krell leaned forward. Then we must stop them. Not with violence, but with the system itself. We know these rules better than anyone. We can make their reforms impossible. How? Vex asked. Krell smiled, a disturbing expression on his alien face. We start filing complaints. We demand reviews of every change. We invoke old regulations. We create delays. The humans are clever, but they are new here. They do not know all our tricks. The bureaucratic warfare began quietly. Forms started disappearing. Applications were suddenly rejected for minor errors. Ancient regulations were pulled from archives and enforced. Taeyang found that his maintenance reforms were suddenly blocked. Someone had discovered a regulation from 40,000 years ago, requiring committee approval for any procedural changes. Bora automated system was shut down. Multiple departments filed complaints about unauthorized technology implementation. Yunji interdepartment agreements were challenged. Someone claimed they violated territorial protocols established millennia ago. The humans gathered in their quarters to discuss the problem. They are fighting back, Daijung said. Using the system against us, Dr. Hyejin had been researching. She had spent days in the archives, reading through 50,000 years of regulations. Now she had an idea. The regulations they are using are ancient, she said. But I found something. The original Empire Charter. The document that started everything. It has emergency provisions. Rules that override everything else. What kind of provisions? Yunji asked. In cases of galactic emergency, certain authorities can bypass normal procedures to save lives. The provisions were meant for wars or natural disasters. But the Charter defines emergency broadly. System failure qualifies. Bora leaned forward. Can we use that? Maybe, Hyejin said. But we need a clear emergency. Something undeniable. They did not have to wait long. 2 days later, a distress call came from a planet called Theta 7. A plague had broken out. Thousands were dying. They needed medical supplies immediately. The supplies existed. They were in a warehouse on the welcome station, but sending them required approvals, medical authorization, transportation permits, customs clearance. The process would take weeks. People will die in weeks, Taeyang said, looking at the request. They need help now. Station Master Krell was in charge of emergency responses. He reviewed the request and shook his head. We must follow proper channels, he said. Safety protocols exist for a reason. We cannot simply send medical supplies without verification. But people are dying, Bora protested. Then they should have filed their request sooner, Krell replied coldly. Rules are rules. The humans looked at each other. This was their moment. This was the clear emergency Heejin had mentioned. Ambassador Yunji stepped forward. She held up a data pad showing the Empire Charter. Under Charter Authority, Section 9, Subsection 7.3, I am invoking emergency override powers. The medical supplies will be sent immediately. Krell's tentacles thrashed. You cannot do that. You do not have authority? Yes, I do, Yunji said calmly. Earth has full membership status. The Charter grants any member species the right to declare emergency in life-threatening situations. I am declaring it now. This is irregular, Compliance Officer Rixthar said, appearing suddenly. He had been monitoring everything. The charter provision you cite is technically valid, but it has not been used in 42,000 years. Then it is time to use it again, Yunji said firmly. People are dying. We have the means to save them. What is the point of all these rules if we let beings die rather than break procedure? Rixthar floated silently for a long moment. Everyone watched him. He was the enforcer of rules. His entire existence was built on following procedures, but he thought about the plague victims. He thought about the dying beings on Theta 7. He thought about what rules were supposed to accomplish. The charter provision is valid, he said finally. The emergency override is approved. Send the supplies. Krell made a sound of fury. This is outrageous. I will file a formal complaint with the Galactic Council. This violation will not stand. File whatever you want, Daejung said, but those supplies are leaving now. Within an hour, a ship carrying medical supplies departed for Theta 7. It would arrive in 3 days. Thousands of lives would be saved, but the political cost was high. Krell made good on his threat. He filed complaints. He demanded an investigation. He called for the humans to be expelled from the Empire. The Galactic Council summoned the humans to answer charges of violating established procedures. The trial would determine not just their fate, but the fate of all their reforms. Everything they had worked for now hung in the balance. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. It could hold representatives from 10,000 species. Today it was packed. Everyone wanted to see the trial of the humans. Admiral Daejung stood with his team at the center of the chamber. Above them, council members sat in rows that rose like an amphitheater. Beings of every shape and size watched them. Some curious, some hostile, some hopeful. The chief counselor, an ancient being whose species name no one could pronounce, called the session to order. Its voice echoed through translators. We are here to address charges brought by Station Master Krell against the species known as humans. The charges are serious. Violation of established procedures, unauthorized use of emergency powers, disruption of galactic order. How do the accused respond? Ambassador Yunji stepped forward. She had prepared for this moment. She wore formal Earth diplomatic attire. Her voice was calm and clear. We acknowledge our actions. We used emergency override authority. We bypassed standard procedures. We implemented reforms without full approval. But we did not violate the law. Everything we did was permitted under the Empire Charter. Station Master Krell rose from his seat. His tentacles waved dramatically. Permitted, perhaps, but unprecedented. The humans show no respect for our traditions, no understanding of why our systems exist. They rush in with their efficiency and their shortcuts, destroying thousands of years of careful order. Dr. Heejin stepped forward now. May I speak? The chief counselor nodded. You may. We do understand why your systems exist, Heejin said. High Administrator Velmoth explained it to us. 50,000 years ago, the galaxy was at war. The bureaucracy was created to prevent that war from ever happening again. It was brilliant, it worked. You achieved peace. She paused, looking around the chamber. But the system was supposed to be temporary. It was meant to last 1,000 years, maybe 2,000, just long enough for old hatreds to fade. Then you would reform it. Simplify it. Move forward. That never happened, Hyejin continued. The reform proposal has been stuck in approval for 49,000 years. You are trapped in your own system. And now the Empire is not just inefficient. It is collapsing. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Counselors looked at each other. Some seemed uncomfortable. Exaggeration, Krell said. The Empire is stable, peaceful. Lieutenant Bora activated a holographic display. Data appeared in the air above them. Charts, graphs, statistics. Trade volumes down 70% in the last 10,000 years, she said. Infrastructure failure rate up 300%. Scientific publications down 95%. Population growth stagnant. Life expectancy declining in 40% of member species. She looked directly at Krell. You call this stable? This is slow death. The galaxy is dying of its own caution. Engineer Tai Yang spoke next. We came to the welcome station and saw species waiting for decades. We saw equipment broken because repairs took too long. We saw beings dying of old age before their applications were approved. That is not order. That is suffering. Ambassador Yoon-ji raised her hand. The chamber quieted. May I present evidence? Proceed, the chief counselor said. Yoon-ji activated another display. Testimonials appeared. Hundreds of them. Species that the humans had helped. The Thorian Collective freed after 40 years of waiting. Theta 7, saved from plague. Dozens of others. In 6 weeks, she said, we helped more species than the Empire helped in the previous decade. Not by destroying your systems, but by making them work. By remembering that rules exist to serve beings, not the other way around. At that moment, Engineer Taeyang made a discovery. He had been searching through the Council's own database during the trial. Now he found something that changed everything. Counselors, he called out. I need to present urgent evidence. The chief counselor looked annoyed but curious. What evidence? Taeyang displayed a document, an ancient document 50,000 years old. It was the original reform proposal. This is the reform committee proposal from 49,000 years ago, he said. The one that has been stuck in approval. I found it in your archives. Do you know what it says? He zoomed in on a section. It says that after 1,000 years, the bureaucratic systems should be reviewed and simplified. It says that peace should not require paralysis. It says that the empire should evolve, should grow, should allow progress while maintaining stability. The chamber was silent. Everyone stared at the ancient text. This proposal was written by the same beings who created your bureaucracy, Taeyang said. They knew it needed to change. They planned for it to change. But the proposal itself got caught in the system it was trying to fix. He looked around the chamber. You have been waiting 49,000 years for permission to do what you already knew you needed to do. The Empire has been asking itself for approval to reform, and the answer has been sitting in a file unprocessed for longer than most civilizations exist. High Administrator Velmoth stood up. His crystal body pulsed with emotion. He has found the truth. We have been trapped by our own caution. The humans did not break our laws. They reminded us of our original purpose. Admiral Daejung spoke for the first time. We are not trying to destroy the Empire. We are trying to save it. Peace is important. Order is important. But they should not require sacrificing progress and life itself. The chief counselor leaned forward. What would you propose? How would you reform without risking chaos? Yoon-ji answered. Start small. Keep the rules that prevent war. Remove the rules that prevent progress. Create fast tracks for routine matters. Reserve full review for truly important decisions. Train administrators in efficiency. Build flexibility into the system. She gestured to her team. Humans are not superior to anyone here. We are just different. We grew up fighting bureaucracy, so we learned tricks you did not need, but we can teach those tricks. We can work together to find balance. Compliance Officer Rixthar suddenly floated to the center of the chamber. The gaseous being that had enforced rules his entire existence now spoke against them. I have spent 300 years making sure every rule was followed, he said. I believed that was my purpose. But I watched the humans save Theta 7. I watched them help dozens of species. I realized that rules without purpose are just obstacles. He turned to the council. I support the humans. I vote to approve their reforms and appoint them as official reform consultants to the Empire. Junior Clerk Pipmix, the small beetle-like being who had befriended Dr. Hyejin, stood up in the audience section. I also support them. I have worked in the system for 80 years. I have seen it fail. The humans offer hope. More voices joined. Counselors stood. Representatives from hundreds of species expressed support. Even some who had been skeptical now saw the truth. Station Master Krell remained seated, his tentacles drooping. He had lost. The chief counselor called for a vote. The result was overwhelming. The humans were not only acquitted of all charges, but officially appointed as reform consultants with full authority to restructure galactic systems. Krell stood slowly. Without a word, he left the chamber. His era was over. As the council session ended, beings from across the galaxy approached the humans. Some wanted advice, some wanted help, some just wanted to thank them. Dr. Hyojin found Pipmix in the crowd. The little clerk was crying with joy. "I have been promoted," he said. "Department head of efficiency standards. They created the position today. For me," Hyojin hugged him carefully. "You earned it. You helped us understand the system." That evening, the human team stood together looking out at the galaxy through a massive window. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction. "We came expecting invasion," Daijung said quietly. "We prepared for war. Instead, we found a galaxy that needed help with paperwork." Bo-Ra laughed. "And somehow that is harder than fighting. But more important," Yunji added. "In war, someone always loses. In reform, everyone can win." Taeyang nodded. "We have work ahead. Thousands of systems to fix, millions of beings to help. Entire civilizations to reconnect," Hyojin smiled. "Good thing we are good at fixing broken systems." They sent a message back to Earth, a simple report. Humanity had joined the Galactic Empire. Not as warriors, not as victims, but as partners, as helpers, as the beings who could make the galaxy work again. The 20 warships hiding beyond the solar system were called home. Earth would not need weapons to secure its place among the stars. It would need accountants, engineers, diplomats, and people who were really good at filling out forms.